Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review of Star Wars The Bad Batch. Today, we are taking a look at Season 3, Episode 5, The Return. I think it's Episode 5. So it's the first three. And then last week's was 4. So, yes, this week's was 5. All right, we're on the right track here. So, definitely much more to talk about with this episode than the last one. Like I said, last week's episode was a good episode. There just wasn't a whole lot to talk about. This week, whole lot more to talk about. Because we return. It is the return, but no one really knew who's returning, what's returning. It's like, that's a very vague title. So I thought it was interesting that we returned to the ice planet from season 2, where Crosshair had his little adventure with Mayday and ended up finally seeing that the Empire wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and decided where his true loyalties laid, whatever. Grammar. So, and then we come back, and he has to face all of those, all of those feelings and emotions, and come to terms with what he did in betraying, the rest of the Bad Batch and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed this episode, because this was like 3 seasons worth of payoff, kind of, where I talked about like last week, where it's like, they had to leave that episode right there at that spot. And I am still kind of curious to see how that conversation went immediately after Crosshair walks down the ramp. And I was kind of thinking to myself, well, they have to pick it up like immediately, right? But no, a little bit of time has passed, not much, probably a couple days. Everyone's sort of kind of getting acclimated, but Hunter's still wary of Crosshair. He hasn't really opened up yet, and so there was a lot of that this episode, and I really enjoyed that. The moment where Crosshair walks through the storage room and he finds the portable heater, and next to it all the discarded clone helmets that the stormtroopers clearly saw all stacked up there, but they were in the way of whatever cargo they needed, so they just dumped them on the ground unceremoniously, got whatever they needed, and left. And then Crosshair takes the time to put them back up where they belong in their little memorial that Mayday had set up and everything. It was very very touching. A really great kind of somber moment in the episode. I really liked it. And Hunter kind of tailing him the entire time, like Crosshair says, like, what, are you going to be my shadow the entire time? But he realized that this is something that, there's something that happened. Crosshair needs this moment to himself, and he trusts him enough to leave him be, at least for the moment. And he lets him have his little moment with the clone helmets. I really liked that. And there was no dialogue whatsoever needed to convey that scene. It was all just in the animation with the facial expressions, and it's like, that was such good storytelling. I really liked that little moment there. So yeah, and then eventually, it seems like they've reconciled a little bit. I'm sure that they're probably going to butt heads a little bit more going forward. I'm sure they'll occasionally still give Crosshair a hard time about his, it's like, well, when did we figure that out? And it's like, in between that one time you're chasing us on the one planet, and then the other time you're chasing us on the other planet. And it's like, right. It's like, there's probably still going to be moments like that. But I mean, they've definitely started the healing process here. And so it's really nice to see, these guys starting to get along again, because they do make such a good team, and they're brothers, even more than, like, all clones are brothers. But even more so than the others is that they really were designed and raised from birth to work together, and were expected to, more than, the regs, which is like, you could throw them around, put them in whatever squad, and they all have the same training, so it would work out with them. But the Bad Batch, I mean, they are specifically designed and created to work as a specific unit. That's kind of this experimental idea. So, them coming back together again is, kind of I mean, this whole show's kind of been leading to it since the first episode, after Crosshair betrays them. And I wonder if he's ever going to say anything about like if he's going to admit to himself, because there was, I think now he's probably looking back and thinking that, yeah, there was some denial going on. So I do wonder if he's going to eventually admit that, yes, I betrayed you all. I thought, because he said, it's like, I thought I knew what I was doing, getting involved with the Empire. I thought I was being a good soldier, but he hasn't exactly, he's given his reason for it, but he hasn't exactly apologized for betraying them. And that's what he did. I mean, he's like, you weren't loyal to me. It's like, come on, man. It's like, that's not exactly fair, him saying that to them all the way back in season 1. So it's not like they left him for dead or anything. It's like it was literally a, hey, you're the one. It's like, we were coming to get you. You're the one that came at us all guns a blazing and stuff. So tried to arrest us when we decided to go AWOL from the Empire, which we never signed up to fight for. I mean, they never signed up to fight for the Republic either. But so I wonder if that's going to be like a good emotional moment in a future episode where he admits that he betrayed them. That'll be interesting. Also, they bring Tech up. There is a brief moment where Echo admits, like, yeah, this is going to be hard to get past this firewall without Tech, and they all have a moment where they, where they look down and they're like, oh, yeah, he's not here. So Crosshair definitely knows at this point. I would have really liked to see the moment where he learns that, where he realizes what one of it's like, one of them is dead. It's like, how did that happen? It wasn't me. So it's like, and so it's probably giving him an even bigger vendetta against the Empire. And like I said, kind of thought last week, it's like, is he going to have some, guilt over that, since it was on a mission to find out where he was, like, you go save him. So who knows how that's going to work out. So I definitely would have liked a moment where we actually see him learn that information, but I mean, it has to come up later, especially if they pull the dumb move and they make the new assassin Claude and Tech, which I'm still on record saying I don't think that's what they're going to do. But if they do move forward and that's the direction they're going, then it's definitely going to get addressed that way. So yeah, there was a lot of good, like emotional stuff, moving the emotional arc of the story forward. But of course, it's an episode of the Bad Batch, so we did of course have to have a fight. There always has to be a fight. So now there's a giant like ice worm in there, which I do find it funny that this episode came out like the same week that Dune Part 2 came out, which I know sandworm versus ice worm, there's a difference there, but it's like, it's sci-fi thing with a big worm in it came out this week. That's funny. Or maybe it was the week prior Dune came out, but it's like still very small window there where it's things kind of aligned close to one another is the point. So that's kind of a funny coincidence, but yeah, no, I knew the second that they focused on the sensor beacons and everything. It's like, okay, there's gonna be some sort of creature, and then as like Wrecker said, it's like, why is there always a giant monster? Yeah, because it's like just a couple episodes ago they were fighting this giant vine goo monster that was creepy. So definitely more points for originality with the vine goo monster than a giant ice worm, but the giant ice worm still very well done. The interesting design is we didn't see a whole lot of it. We just kind of saw more of its like what looked like the kind of exoskeleton of it or something. So we didn't even really get to see a whole lot of what actually looked like. I will say though, I do sort of kind of feel bad for it, because bravo to the sound team here for the sound design. But when the sensors came back on and it didn't like the sound and the little shrieks of clearly, oh no, I don't like this. I'm a big worm and I don't like this. Yeah, those shrieks it was doing. I kind of felt bad for it because the sound team did a really good job, and it's like, oh, it's unhappy. It's hurting. It's in pain. No, it's like yes, he did. It did try to eat our main character, so it's like I don't feel totally bad for it, but at the same time, it's like well, it's not like it's evil. It's just a big animal. So it's just like oh, but it's making such sad noises. It's like can we already have Batcher. It's like can we adopt this thing too? It's like can we? It's like the Bad Batch just starts collecting pets. Like they have a giant intergalactic zoo that they fly around with. It's like and here's our giant worm. It is kind of I do find it kind of funny that the last several episodes have had this kind of big focus on animals where of course we have Batcher introduced, then there's whatever they never really explain why there's this big menagerie of animals on the planet from last episode. I don't think I really brought that up, but it did kind of hit me later. It's like, yeah, what was with the giant zoo of animals that's just hanging out at the space docks? I mean, I suppose it's a pretty easy thing to explain. It's like, well, the guy's doing a lot of under the table illegal like animal transportation. He's making a lot of money off of that because he was clearly this money grubbing, bureaucratic little weasel. So I mean that works for me. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, why were there all these animals in cages? What was going on with that? And now we have the big ice worm. So kind of a funny little arc or plot thread. It's like there's a lot of these episodes have to deal with animals. So um, it's nice having Echo back. Been missing Echo because him being off with Rex. And I'm sure they did this on purpose. But like I said, with talking about the second episode, where it just being Hunter and Wrecker, it made things feel very lonely, and small. And I'm sure that, and like I said, I'm sure they did that on purpose. That's what they were going for. That's why they had Echo removed from the group there for a little while. But we've kind of got the whole team back together at this point. It's Crosshair's back in the group. We've got Omega, Hunter, Wrecker, Echo, and now we've added Batcher. It's like the Marauder feels small now. It's like they mentioned it's like oh well Crosshair wasn't here when we woke up. It's like where is everyone sleeping? Are they just sleeping in the chairs? It's like I feel like it's a very small space to inhabit. Um, I'm sure they make do, but it's like you're gonna squeeze all these people in this teeny tiny little spaceship. It's like where are you all sleeping? Um, so yeah, it's nice to have the group back together, and then just the immediate. All right, here's the plan. We'll execute the plan. We're good at getting the plan done because we work it and go. Even though we've been separated and stuff, we still work really well as a team. We're picking right back up where we left off. That was really cool. I really really liked that. And the little maybe Jurassic Park reference with Wrecker in the in the power room and the way he's powering on the generator. It's very much Ellie Sattler trying to get power back to the to the visitor center at the end of Jurassic Park. Pumping the generator and turning everything on and everything. It's like my dad and I were watching. We went Jurassic Park. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know if I really have too much else to say. Just another solid episode with a lot of really good character moments in here. So yeah. So again, a little this review's on time, and I will say I didn't have to stretch this one. I was able to easily find things to talk about. Where last time I feel like part of all I talked about last time is the fact I didn't have a whole lot to talk about. So that really kind of had to stretch last week's review. This one though, it's like nah. I had plenty to talk about. There was much more to talk about in this episode. For next week though, I wonder if they go off on a mission and they have and changed up the look of Crosshair's armor because otherwise he's gonna look a little out of place because they've all kind of got the more dirtied up. Now they've got orange markings instead of red on there. So I'll be interested to see if they do that with Crosshair or if he's gonna retain the same armor. So Yeah. Oh, and I suppose one last thing is I don't know if this was like if they got the proportions wrong and it was an animation error, or if the way the shot was framed it just really drew attention to it. But there was one shot where I think they did a really good job of just showcasing a lot of the damage that was done to Echo on Skako Minor. Uh, and that was when he's breaking up the beginnings of a fight, the little argument between Crosshair and Hunter when they first land on the ice planet, and he's like, "Hey, we can fight later. Let's get this information downloaded." And he steps in between them. The armor between the armor he's wearing and the fact that he's got robot legs and stuff, and one of his arms is missing. Just and those limbs being very thin, it almost looked like he was a bobble chest head or something. It's like I really got a sense of, oh wow, it's like that's really all the human part of him that's left, and everything else is droid or robot. He kind of got Darth Mauled a little bit, but even worse than Maul because like he's missing an arm and stuff. So he's actually a little closer to Vader in terms of the amount of human flesh he's missing. So so I so yeah, I don't think that was an animation error. I think that's legitimately so yeah, that's just Echo's proportions, and a lot of shots don't showcase that, but this particular one did. So I just thought that was something worth noting. So yeah, but other than that, I don't really think I have anything else left to say about this episode. Good episode, really liked it, and I am excited to see what next week brings. So that'll pretty much be it for this review of The Bad Batch. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.